You know the grandfather's last name? Because he, I don't know if it's maternal or paternal. He could be about right.
Welcome everybody to the February 16th meeting of the Rotary Club of Louisville. I'm Walt Kuno, president of your club, Paul Harris Fellow. First things first, please silence your phone. And did anybody say the other day at the State of the City, I had my phone silent because I can't hear anymore. It flashes, so I'm up at the podium flashing, and it was.
Walt was flashing at the podium.
You caught me. Don't anyway. Don't go. But phone flashed, and I looked down, and the son of Amy Traeger, Kevin, was running the thing, and it was Amy saying, "Walt, I'm watching you on TV right now." It's like, oh, this is great. Anyway, so don't have your mind flashes. It's just life. So silence your phones. And providing today's invocation is Jason Pierce, Scout Executive CEO of the Lincoln Heritage Council of Boy Scouts of America.
Thanks, Walt. Let us pray. Lord, we pray for the children in our city who sneak cookies before supper, who can't ever find their shoes, and we pray for those who can't bound down the street in a new pair of sneakers, and those that live in an X-rated world. We pray for the children in our city who bring us fistful of dandelions, who eat lunch daily, have lunch money, and we pray for those who will never get dessert. We pray for those that don't have any rooms to clean up, whose pictures aren't on anybody's dresser, and whose monsters are real. We pray that you will not only bless this food and fellowship that we share today, but it will teach us that progress happens when no child in this city is too invisible to be seen and in too much trouble to be loved. Hear our prayers, O one who loves this city and every child in it. Amen.
Thank you, Jason. And just if y'all read your sparks, and I know it was long, but that just tells us how much great work we're doing here. I'm going to ask Jason to do this today because he's got a little special program on March 21st, and it's Jeff Braun who's going to talk about how proud he is to be an Eagle Scout, as am I. And let's get some Rotary tables going there too. So there was our advertisement for at least this for today. And now, to lead us in the pledge and four-way test is Todd Bale, Executive Director of the National Society of the Sons of the American Revolution, and a new member to our club. Thank you, Todd.
Join me in the pledge to our nation's flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Fellow Rotarians, the four-way test are things we think, say, and do.
Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Please be seated. And I don't know if y'all know about the Sons of the American Revolution, but when my kids were in Little League, the color guard would always come out and have a color guard and shoot one of the black powder muzzleloaders. And I think is that something we can have an outdoor event and have you guys come and do that? Only if you sign a waiver, I think we can do that. Anyway, thank you, Todd. Rotarians, please take this time to introduce yourself first, and then your guests. The microphone's at the back. Please go ahead and do that.
Hello all, I'll kick it off. Delane Taylor, Executive Director of the club, and we have one guest today, I think that found us on the web, or maybe from a referral, Chris Woodall. Am I saying that right? He is the Director of Development of Student Affairs at U of L. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning, or good afternoon. I'm Ann Bonnell, Vice President of Philanthropy at Louisville Presbyterian Seminary, and I'm delighted to have a guest today, Shannon Kisselbaugh, the newly minted Executive Director of the Park Community Credit Union Foundation, and hopefully a potential Rotarian as well. Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you. Just so all you all know, That is the foundation arm of Park Community Credit Union that all of our dollars for the West Louisville Housing Initiative is going through. So this is a big deal for us. Glad you're here. Hello, Cynthia.
Hi, President Walt. Hi, all. Cynthia Miles Brown, Signorama Dixie. I am very, very excited today. Look, I'm gonna cry. I have my daughter as my guest. She is a 6th grader at Sacred Heart Model School, and she is off today. And I thought, no better way to talk about service above self with all of her service hours and to meet all of you great people. So.
And when the meeting comes to a close, where's Rotary's over here if you want to join? Anyway, get him in, young. Thanks, Kevin. Sorry.
No problem. Afternoon, everybody. Kevin Fields, club director and chair of DEI for the club. And I'm excited to introduce my special guest today, Richard Ballard. Richard, stand up. Richard is with the Affordable Housing Smoketown, and he is providing leadership for redlining mitigation, which is very important work because we're still living with the residual effects of redlining policies of the 60s, especially in West Louisville. I do want to mention that his organization, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, is a major supporter of our club's West Louisville Housing Initiative. So please welcome Richard.
Any of you guests that are interested in becoming a Rotarian, Craig Sherman, is Craig here yet? Yes, he is. There he is. Right on time. Craig will be up here at the front for What is Rotary Table. So if you're interested, come see Craig. Now we're going to do networking here for a few minutes, but before we do that, just one little thing. Just a couple of, we're back at Sabre now. Just the procedure. So we need to get our lunch reservations in by noon on Monday, and that's for Sabre to have enough food for us. There's just not, they just don't have it sitting in the back there. If you want to come and it's after Monday at noon, you email Deline and just say, if I want to have lunch, put me on the wait list. More than likely you'll get off, but if you don't, still come and have a seat, and then we've got coffee, drinks, and dessert for everybody else with a $5 charge. Please please email Deline that too. So anyway, we just need to kind of get, this is our new way to do this until we change it, okay? All right, now we can network, and if you need to think of something to talk about, try not to talk about the weather, okay? It's time for the fun to cease and desist. All right, I'm going to go back to Sparks again and read it from start to finish, and you'll be so proud of everything that your club is doing, the work that you are doing and supporting. We're starting off here. We want to congratulate these members of our Rotary Club in Business First Power 50 this year. Amy Luttrell, Cynthia Napak, Yvonne Smith, Gil Holland, Kim Hallbauer, Mike Mountjoy, and Tawana Bain. Yay. And if any of you see or Rotarian in the news or know something good happening to a Rotarian, please send it to Delane and we get it up here. Next, Business First also invited 2 of our members to participate in the upcoming Mentoring Monday program. Jennifer Hagelson will be up here in a second, and Jolene Taylor will be a presenter. All right. We're trying to be a little more sustainable, so you have QR codes on your table for your Sparks and announcements that we did not print out. All right. Now, I'd like to invite Dr. Linda Bartram-Moore up to the podium for a flag exchange. Welcome, Linda.
Where's the flag? Where's your flag? Where's your flag? It's an exchange.
It's in my car.
Oh, no, it's All right, this is from Orange County, California, where I spent the last 40 years of my life, and back here for 2.5 years now. So, my old club, Hill Park Rotary. And also, I cannot leave this podium without advertising. So, my goal coming here, because I ran them in California, was to establish Interact clubs. And I began last year and told Walt it would take me 3 years to get a solid grounding. They are at Western and Iroquois, precious, precious kids. So their third project for the year, this is our second year at both schools, is a blood drive. So we had one February 8th at Iroquois and March 8th at Western. These are on your tables. And this is your blood drive as well as my interactors, because my interactors belong to you. And I cannot thank Tony Newberry and Rick Harden enough for their support of Interact. This is Western High School, and I know some of you may not be able to give blood, but we have younger, able-bodied people who can go. March 8, Western High School. My interactors will be the worker bees. Please come out and support. We have an amount set for us of 38 units of blood. We have to meet it or they will not come back, as you may know from working blood drives. They've already committed these units of blood. We have to meet this goal. So come out and support your Interact and my interactors. They're so pretty. I think
And Linda, when she came to our club, she said she wanted to do this, and she's one of the best advocates for our students of anybody. Now I'd like to welcome Jennifer Hagelson, President of Junior Achievement of Kentuckiana, to the podium for a special presentation.
Thank you. All right. Bear with me, my voice is going out. So I get to talk a little bit about the partnership with Rotary and our schools with 3DE. So first of all, huge thank you to all of you for what you do. 3DE, I think I have the, okay, I gotta see if I can do this. Okay, I get really excited when I do things like that. So 3DE is three-dimensional education. I've been with JA now for a year and it has been phenomenal. But it is really because of people in this room, all of you, that make JA possible and what we can achieve. So 3DE is three-dimensional education. It partners a business with, which is Rotary, and NAACP, with a case in which our students build out a case around a challenge that an entity might have, and then our students get a real-time, real-world problem that they solve for here and now. So we had the opportunity to work with all of you, and this slide just shows some of the awesome data points that we have right now. So as you can see, 3DE nationally has been able to show a 34% decrease in chronic absenteeism. That's a big deal. We want our kids showing up each and every day. 33% increase compared to their peers in graduation rates. And then college enrollment would be what we get to see in 2 more years. So we are currently at Valley and Shawnee, freshman and sophomore year. We are launching junior year, and we're going into J-Town. J-Town is our 3rd school that's coming on board. We are in alignment with the academy model with JCPS. And if we go to the next slide. So just as a reminder, the case challenge was around how can the NAACP and the Rotary Club of Louisville communicate with high school students to build membership. How do we get information out to younger individuals to get engaged with this group and other groups? And so the students had to create a 3 to 5 minute presentation on what their pitch would be. And if you recall, they were here. I think they were up on a stage at that point in time, but it was a group of 4 young women, and I think on the next slide it'll show us, when they were here, actually it's 5 young ladies, but their pitch was, they had a little video that they put together, and they said, we need to think about advertising on YouTube. And the reason behind YouTube was because apparently it's more challenging to bypass ads on YouTube than it is, okay, I got a couple of nods, than some of the other social media platforms. And so that was their input for our club. So fast forward, we have a new launch taking place in which we need volunteers. And so I think on the next slide, there you go. And thank you, I know this went out from Rotary. It was sharing all the awesome opportunities. So we provide a training if you're interested in learning more. That will take place February 24th. 28th and March 1st is coaching sessions. You don't necessarily have to be, well-versed in anything really, except to give feedback to the students on what they're thinking about. And then last, my favorite thing is the culminating event, and that's where students compete. It's like a pitch contest, and they will pitch to the judges, which would be all of you, whomever wants to volunteer with us, and you would pick the best solution. And then that team, hopefully, the goal is that Rotary and NAACP and or any other partner would put a piece of that solution into practice. So we're super, super excited. It's been amazing. The other thing that was noted, all the volunteers who helped support us this year received a Starflinger Award. If you want to give it to them, great, thank you. So we've got a few folks noted. You may have a Starflinger Award that you have received and you're not up here, so you can let me know if so. But the thought behind this is, and it goes back to the starfish, right? If someone's throwing the starfish back into the ocean, oh my gosh, how many starfish are not going to make an impact? Well, you do. You make an impact for each and every one of those kids. And for us, that changes lives for families, that changes lives for communities, and really the trajectory moving forward. So, in the spirit of that, I would like to recognize with the Starflinger Award, as well as a Community Partner Award from JA to Rotary and NAACP. Okay. Oh, and then I'm supposed to also make sure you know, last chance Hall of Fame. I think that's the next slide. March 2nd. Thank you.
So we wrap this up. The 3DE program started as one of the subcommittees for our Community Impact Committee way back when we were having the social unrest in West Louisville. So while the West Louisville Housing Initiative was our big deal, there were a bunch of other smaller projects, and this one lives on at Valley and at Shawnee and next year to J-Town. And I will tell you, just one of the clickers that our kids at Western and Iroquois have to meet is this 10% attendance mandate is with us. And you've got 90% overall, and I will tell you at our schools, it's not near that. So that makes a difference, and kids coming to school make a difference. And kids coming to school knowing that people want to work with them make a difference. So we make a difference now at Valley, at Western and Iroquois, at the West End School, and Educational Justice, and I probably could name off a few others though. And this one's a big deal because we partnered with the NAACP of Kentucky. And Luke Schmidt led that charge, and Tony Kemper led the charge for 3E here with our club. So thank you, and thank you for becoming a member too. Before I ask Ken Salvaggi to come up to the podium, I just wanted to say a couple of things to Dr. Price, our speaker. So Ben Richmond was one of our first Black Rotarians here in Louisville. And I don't know if you were there last year, but at Mayor Fisher's last State of the City, Rotary honored Mr. Richmond with a special award. And Ben has been one of Kevin's mentors, and Kevin just said, it's really nice to talk about Ben early and often, and I think you would agree with that too. And right this minute, maybe we want to put Ben in our thoughts and prayers. So please do that. And Ken is the general manager of ESPN Louisville, chair of the Kentucky Derby Festival, and they're off. Paul Harris Fellow +2, and on the speakers committee. I will never forget that. All right, thank you, Ken.
Thank you, President Walsh. Wow, really scary looking now. What the fuck? Pretty cool. Nice view. I wanted to also welcome Fran Ferris, who's also a guest of ours today. Fran is the new Chief of Staff for the Louisville Urban League. So welcome. And of course, a special welcome to Dr. Kish Cumi Price, the new President and CEO of the Louisville Urban League, replacing Sadiqa Reynolds. She has focused on strategic action to support youth and families for more than 20 years. Her work has been shaped by evaluating systems, identifying gaps, and braiding resources. As a first-generation graduate, former small business owner, and a divorced mom that had to work multiple jobs while completing a graduate degree, she is invested in helping people prioritize health and optimize educational and workforce opportunities. She's worked to extend the lines of equitable access in her various roles as Commissioner of the Kentucky Department of Workforce Development and Special Advisor to the Governor, Senior Policy and Advocacy Director of Early Childhood and K-12 Policy at Kentucky Youth Advocates, Director of Education Policy and Programming at the Louisville Urban League, Founding Executive Director of Smoketown Family Wellness Center, a higher ed administrator, school counselor, CEO and co-founder of Empowering Youth Through Education. She's trained in clinical mental health counseling as a practitioner, researcher, and counselor educator. She's married with lots of children and has lots of children that she supports through the Louisville Urban League. So, welcome. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Ken, for the warm welcome. And I apologize. I'll share up front. I don't know if I had a hot flash, if it was hot in here, if I'm nervous, but if I get hot again, I'm bringing out my favorite song. Just let me know. But thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited about the opportunity to share with you my vision for the Louisville Urban League and our plan for what we can accomplish together in this city. I think I should start just by saying, whenever someone reads my bio, it sounds like a lot and, you know, all the things, right? But I think at the core of the work that I do, it's about acknowledging people. as people, right? Not the better than. I noticed that when I stepped into this role, all of a sudden it felt special. You know, there was special treatment. People treat you differently. And I thought, man, like what would it be like if everybody was treated like they were special? Right? Like everybody got the special treatment. Because it's a real thing. And you never know what's on the other side of that, right? Like, why are you getting the special treatment? Do you want me to do something for you? Or, you know, so it's now I have all these questions that I'm always processing. But I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be here with you all. Every time I speak, I am asking God to guide my words and share what needs to be shared at this moment, because I don't take these moments for granted anymore. I think I used to. So I'm appreciative of this opportunity to share space with you all. I will say, I know we have a wide range of folks in the room, folks who know the Louisville Urban League really well, like Kevin Fields, who actually used to work at the Louisville Urban League, and then we have folks who may not know who we are and what we do. So I'll just start with sharing that we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan, community-serving organization, and we are really tasked with trying to erase racism in the city. And that sounds like a really tall order, right? When we think about what that means and its adverse impacts on our community. But I did a little exercise with our staff, had a blank sheet of paper and asked them, you know, where would we be if we were at the top of our mission? Like the work that we do, how we do it, in one word, what would you say? So everybody wrote the one word. And that, I think it was easy. It was, you know, impactful, powerful, thriving. And then I said, okay, and where would you say we'd be if we were at our worst? And it was, dysfunctional, chaotic, you know, closed. And then I said, and where are we now? And so people striving, you know, doing the work, you know, so it was 3 words on that paper. And so for me, I did the exercise as well. And at the top is obsolete. At the bottom is obsolete. And in the middle, we're doing the work, right? But if we're really striving to do what we say we're trying to do, we should be working ourselves out of this. Right? That's the goal. That is the goal. So our pillars are jobs, justice, education, health, and housing. And we've added Black business as a main pillar of the work that we do. And some of these slides, if you were able to join us for our Impact Luncheon last year, you'll recognize some of these slides. But I thought it would be helpful to share just a visual that helps you to see who we actually serve. So the majority of our clients are Black women. And I had the pleasure of having a wonderful panel at that Impact Luncheon to talk about why it's important for us to center our work around Black women in the city, because it is the intersection of some of the most marginalized factors when we look at race and gender. So if you're always centering the most marginalized, and if we wanted to, we would also overlay socioeconomic status, we would overlay disabilities, you know, we would put those different factors into the space to say if we are always keeping that at the center, then that can help to guide the work. And I noticed that one of the 4 guiding ways for this club is really about, you know, well, is it benefiting everyone, right? And sometimes we have to like dig for that, because when you're talking about getting to social and economic equality by using equity as the vehicle, sometimes people get a little caught up on, well, this isn't benefiting everyone. At least it's not benefiting them the same way. But if we're really talking about doing the work, we have to understand that sometimes that benefit may happen at a different inflection point for everybody. Okay, so I wanted to spend the majority of our time talking about a path forward. Why? Because it is a collective lift. It's very different than what we've done in the past. So yes, I previously was in the role as Director of Education Policy and Programming at the Urban League. And the work that we did and continue to do is always about the movement. And it's about the pillars that I just uplifted to you all. In collaboration with the other affiliates across the country and the National Urban League's guidance. And so why this is so different is because it was birthed out of a collective vision of Black leaders, white allies that said, we support this, we understand why it's important. And I think all too often we forget where we have come from. We forget the things that just happened. I mean, like, we try to forget those things, right? If it was bad, if it was ugly, people want to move on. Well, we're saying don't forget. Yes, we have to move on, but don't forget. Don't forget why we had to do this. Don't forget that Breonna Taylor was murdered. Don't forget that David McAtee was murdered. Don't forget that that's why we started this journey. And so it wasn't just a document. It wasn't just a stance. It wasn't just a position statement. It's a movement. Why is this movement different? It's because we're saying it's not just about what we do at the league. It's about partnership. It's about collective impact. It's about sharing our numbers. Right? So you get to come to all these great events that a lot of the nonprofits have throughout the city to share the impact that we're having on the city. And typically, it is really, really, really unique to that particular nonprofit organization. What we're saying is let's all celebrate these numbers collectively because we can say we did it. What does that mean? That means you have to let go of ego, right? You have to be considerate of your mission and how we get there. So everybody's not going to do the same thing. But whatever you do really well, we want you to do that and to keep on doing that. Hey, good to see you. I'm coming your way. I know we need to meet soon. But you know, it's really about that collective impact. What keeps us from doing that? A lot of the philanthropic energy is usually around buzzwords like co-creation. What does that compute for nonprofit organizations? It means we look at the grant, we try to figure out what the donors are saying they want, and then we say, okay, you take that piece, I take that piece, we take this piece. All right, go forth and be great, break. And then it's time for a report. Everybody pulls the report together. This is what we did. Now, I'm gonna ask you, how many of you have a partner in life? Whether you're your husband, wife, a friend, somebody you just consider a life partner. What if you operated like that? Do you think you'd be very effective? Would that relationship mean a lot to you? Some of you probably have that, and I'm sorry. I'll pray for better, right? But I used to have that. Actually, I'm like, wait a minute, it's very familiar. I used to have that experience. So I know it's not effective. You don't feel validated, you don't feel like you're a team, you don't feel like you're working together. It's not easier, it's not smarter, it's just harder, right? And you're never really moving the needle. So this is different because we're saying it is co-creation that is with safe and trusted partners to say we're doing this work together. We're having this iterative process of meeting, talking about the goals, who's gonna claim which pieces of those goals. Are you still on mark for that? Do we need support? That's not working for you. Let's move this over here. And we're asking for that funding to go to these collaboratives to then determine how those funds are allocated amongst the people who are the experts. And of course, in a lot of boards, foundations have a lot of people who are involved and know a lot. You can never know the capacity of an organization like the people in the organization. So this is why this is so different and revolutionary, and we have some folks from a national standpoint who understand why this matters and why this work is important, and they're asking us to speak out about this, and we're asking locally, for our people to understand why this is different. Why are we still in 2023 talking about the same statistics that we had 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago? Because we're doing the same thing. And we know the quote, everybody's like, oh, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing. Well, we're doing it. We're doing it. Okay, so this is different, and it does require for us to be coordinated in how we do that. So if you had your first kind of reality check with the movement of the path forward, I'm asking you to circle back to look at our plan. So on a path forward, the number 4, lou.org, you can find the plan. I've just highlighted, uplifted some of these goals for you all today. across our pillars, we have focused on 3. So education, housing, and Black business are our 3 goals for the next, or areas of pillars that we're focusing on for the next 5 years. And so we have this big goal of 33,350 students that we're trying to impact deliberately by providing wraparound supports for students, for their families, helping with academic progress, specifically with intensive tutoring, not homework help, that's important too, but intensive tutoring, and also with college access and persistence measures to support students. And I'll share a couple of ways that we're doing that. We have great funders, JCPS being one of them, that has helped us to be able to provide the funding for students to go to Kumon. If you're not familiar with Kumon, parents pay a lot of money for their kids to go to Kumon. And of course, that is an access and equity issue for a lot of our Black and brown kids in the city. And so it really is not even about the socioeconomic status of the students, because if you are looking at the data, and I know our education experts in the room understand that that socioeconomic factor is not even a thing. So we're talking about Black students in higher earning households. They're still being negatively impacted more than white students in low socioeconomic households, right? So I know, I see a lot of you perplexed. It's reality. You can see, you can check the numbers on that. And so that lets us know it's something else there. You know, what are, not just something, there are multiple things there. So one of the things that I think would really help us, and it's not in this plan, but we are launching an Adopt a School program in August of this year. And we're asking, and I just talked to Walt about this, I know he mentioned Iroquois is a school that you all have already adopted, but we're asking other people to get serious about this and to do the work. We're asking faith-based organizations, affinity groups, sororities, fraternities, so that all of the schools that really, really need these supports, and it's really all of them to be completely honest, but we're gonna start with the priority schools. We really need compassionate adults. So we're not just saying anybody. If you don't like kids, we're not asking you to sign up for this, okay? Like, you are excused. Thank you for thinking about it, right? But we're asking for compassionate adults to be in the space. What I think will happen from this, and this is not just a new idea, there's, you know, evidence of the impact that this has. Actually, the initiative started in Dallas, Texas. But when kids are able to see that people care enough to take time to be in the building with them, and if you know anything about education and community and how sometimes there's a very interesting divide there, you know, we don't necessarily welcome community into schools all the time. A lot of that is just protecting our kids, protecting our staff, but at the same time, we're dealing with a teacher shortage. We're dealing with a very real issue with parents that have been incarcerated. You know, when we talk about Kentucky and how our numbers in terms of those that are justice involved are ridiculously higher than our peer cities, our peer states, and just across the nation. We're one of the highest to incarcerate people, and specifically Black and brown people. And so because of that, we have to respond to it. Now you may be saying, why do I have to respond to it? I doubt it, because you're obviously Rotarians, right? Or guests thereof. But for the most part, people check out because it's like, well, I didn't have anything to do with that. I didn't create the situation, right? And I think that's sometimes where we have this divide, where people can't take ownership or responsibility for the change because you don't want to take ownership or responsibility for how we got here. So what I'm saying is, if you're having that mind gap, you know, where it's not really connecting, and there is a synaptic gap there, I'm asking you to get to the space where you say, let's pretend we're in Western Kentucky and our homes were devastated by tornadoes. Or pretend we were in Eastern Kentucky and our homes were devastated by the floods. What's next? What do? It's not rhetorical. Somebody, what would you do?
Rebuild.
Respond, rebuild, help. Be willing to ask for help, right? That's what we do. That's our natural human response. And so we don't know how, I mean, yeah, okay. I was not around when my ancestors were living in slavery. But I can say, I know that I have a responsibility to acknowledge that it happened. I have a responsibility to say, why are we still dealing with inequities that came from that era? I have a responsibility to say, it's weird that I was treated so differently in Flint, Michigan, where it's 55% African Americans at the time, and it was Black excellence. We had a Black superintendent. I never had my intelligence questioned. Then I moved to Franklin, Tennessee in 8th grade, where it's 5%, and it's literally like, who are you? You know, you're less than, I felt that. Why did I feel that? Did I have anything to do with it? Did I create it? No, but I have a responsibility to not act like I didn't experience it, right? We all have that response that and you can say, it's all good. I'm comfortable living my comfortable life. Okay, you can keep believing that. If we want the city that we say we want, we all have to step up. Everybody. And we can do it. We can do it. We don't have to be like everybody else, right? We don't use that as an excuse. Oh, it's happening all over the country. Oh yeah, it is. But I think the reason why I'm here and why I chose to move here after a divorce with my 3 sons and without friends and family is because I felt the love and compassion from the people that I met in this city. I felt the opportunity to be able to do something different. And it's so resourceful. We have so much here. We're so rich in resources. We're rich in caring people. So why not? Why couldn't we do differently? Why can't we be the ones to say, we're figuring it out and we're doing it together and we're under this banner together so that nobody can say, I'm not here to be like Kish did it, Dr. Price did it. We did it. We did it. Okay, so our housing goal. And I would like to say thank you so much for your efforts in this space because our housing goal was developed from the study that really looked at, well, how many affordable housing units would we need in Louisville in order to be responsive to the need? It was 30,000. So we looked at 10% of that goal to say this is what we'd like to commit to. And when I say we, not talking Louisville Urban League, but all of our partners in this work to say this is what we think we can do. We're also looking at 1,200 new Black homeowners. And a lot of that means that we have to be creative about how we do this, intentional about what we do. We're actually looking now into creating a housing acquisition fund because it is, as most of you who are familiar with this issue, the track was built in the West End. There were a lot of conversations from community really and seeing this play out before. Well, how do we prevent gentrification? If you have something like this to happen, how do you prevent gentrification? And it's not just, it doesn't just happen. Like it has to be a coordinated effort to ensure that that happens, right? We can look at the abandoned homes and say, the city would be safer if we get rid of these abandoned homes and we have someone to come in and build and have new homes. But who owns those homes? A lot of the abandoned homes are owned by Black people who are not able to renovate the homes. So it's more difficult work, right, to try to say you're preserving Black wealth and coming up with the ideas and strategies in order to do that and simultaneously respond to the need. But that's the difficult work that we have to do together. Because if we're saying, trying to paint with a broad stroke and say, oh, well, a broad brush and say, you know, we just need to change it. We need to, you know, I have investors that are interested and developing space, but at what cost? What are we missing here? So that's the hard work, but we have to do it, and we have to do that together. And then the last piece here is around our Black business goal. It is absolutely unacceptable, which is funny. My 3-year-old has this new word he loves, so he's always like, that's unacceptable. But it really actually just popped in my mind. But it's unacceptable for us to say that 2.4% of businesses are owned by Black people in Louisville. What? How? And so that is not just it's very interesting. I just had an opportunity to speak to a group, and the question was, why? Why don't we have more Black people in the entrepreneurial space? So I said, why do you think we don't have them? Well, I think that we just, people need to know that there's opportunities. We need to connect them with people. We need to, and they went on and on and on. And then, they said, because there's risk there, we need more people taking risks, and we need them to understand that we need more entrepreneurs. And then I said, okay, so you do realize that a good majority of Black and brown people in Louisville feel like their whole life is a risk. So understand that when you're thinking about the why behind things, that you also think about the people that you're talking about. And then you don't talk about them, you talk with them, right? Talk with us. We have to be in a space where we're forcing these conversations. It's not organic. It doesn't just happen, right? You have to force that. It's a healthy force. I don't mean it like, talk to me. I'm saying you have to put yourself in uncomfortable positions. Force yourself to be put in an uncomfortable position to ask the questions, to say, help me understand, right? And then when you don't, chew on it, think about it, right? I just had this thought yesterday after having this really long conversation with a guy after my presentation. I was just like, oh my gosh. I was like, it was literally to school a fool. Like, that's what came to my mind. I was like, is that a book? Should I write it? Because eventually, who's the fool, right? Am I gonna waste my time trying to help you to see, or am I just gonna recognize that you don't really wanna learn? You don't wanna unlearn and relearn. You just think you know, and that's okay. But I'm not gonna waste my time with this. You know what I mean? But it's that. And I think some of these interactions that we have is gonna take time, right, to help work through people's issues and their barriers, right? Their own barriers that they've created where they can't even see. But I think the initiatives that we're talking about building, like Adopt a School, it changes your mindset when you're actually interacting with people that you normally wouldn't interact with. Normally, would you be interacting with a 5th grader that lives in Newburgh? Or she's like, yes. Yes, the 6th grader has yes. So, but what does that look like? It looks like you're learning new things, right? You're learning new things about that person. They're learning new things about you. And so we should never be in a place where we're kind of, I'm better than, right? You may be better off, and that's even an opinion, but you're never better than. Never. Never. So, it's getting hot, so I'm about to break out the fan. Y'all see me up here, the sweat's beading, I'm wiping, I'm trying to be discreet, but my point being, I just want to say, I think we have that opportunity. If I've said anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, I hope you lean into it. Why did it feel uncomfortable? What was that? It's okay to admit that was, I don't know why I felt that way about that. That's what we need. We don't need you to keep coming to meetings and hearing people speak and then being like, I liked her, I like what she said, I don't like that part. Why? Deal with that, right? What is it that made me feel that way? We need to deal with that because we all have it. We all have it. I was talking to a group the other day and I said, it's kind of that thing where you're like, yeah, I love, I like Black people, but yeah, I got a black friend? And I was like, okay, great. But then what happens when your daughter comes home and she's like, hey, here's my boyfriend and he's black, and you're like, ooh. You know, like that feels different. Why? Why? What is that? Deal with that. Lean into it. Figure out what that is. I remember having the experience of when I moved to Franklin, Tennessee. I was on a, don't judge me, but cheer team, dance cheer team. Cheered competitively. You already judging me, I know, see? And so it was a great experience. What's even worse is that school was, the mascot was the Rebels. That's not bad, right? Rebels, that's, you know. No, the mascot was a Confederate, right, with a Confederate flag. And not until, I want to say maybe, probably 5 years ago, we were pushing to change that, right? Like, I was the first black homecoming queen. Don't judge that either. I don't even know what that's about, because I was like, wait, what? This is 1990, what? But anyway, I say that to say, I think a lot of what I receive from people, a lot of times is like, Kish, you're not like the other. What does that mean? What are you trying to say? Right? Because that doesn't make me feel good about anything, right? And that leads me to believe you don't know a lot of black people. Right? You're chasing the narrative that you're seeing in media, which is absolutely not telling the story of black and brown people's contributions in this country, in this world. And so I'm asking all of you also, from a justice perspective, to always be thinking about that. What do you believe? What are you pouring into your spirit? What are you subjecting your eyes to see, your ears to hear, and then is it accurate? Right? Like, I'm asking you to do that because I know everybody in here can and will and probably already do, but I'm going to sit down because I'm sweating now. All right. Thank you so much. And
Rotarians, make your way to the back for questions. I have one for you here. So we spent how many weekend days? Was it 3 full days, 8 hours a day during 2 full days, talking to our black leaders about just getting educated before we decided to do anything, and that's going on 3 years now. And we have done a lot of stuff, and we've done stuff a long time. Rotary service above self. So, but how do we? I don't want to say we'll return to that, but at least to return to the spirit of that, so it stays alive.
I think it's about those connections that I mentioned, like being intentional about leaning into what the problems are, and I mean, like you're doing, right, with the housing initiative. I mean, when I heard about that, I was just like, yes, right, because anybody can do that, right? Anybody who's willing to say, what are the problems, how can we respond to them, let's step up. That's what we do when we care. I will say, I know I remember having the experience right at the height of the pandemic. We had emergency response teams for everything. And that was when I was previously at the league and representing for education. And I could not bear the thought of how we responded to a lot of things, right? It took its toll on me because it didn't seem urgent. So I was like, how are we calling an emergency response team and everybody's acting like this isn't urgent? Then I thought about it, I was like, yeah, duh. Like, nobody in here is directly impacted by anything that I'm trying to talk about right now. So of course, it doesn't matter as much to you. You may say you care, but it's different levels to caring, right? if I said right now, a pipe has burst in your home, I'm not wishing this on anybody, but a pipe has burst in your home, right? If I said, if it's newsflash, there's pipes that have bursted across the city, you're like, oh wow. But if somebody's texting you, a pipe just burst in the house, don't you have a different level? Like just me saying that made you feel some kind of way, right? So that is what I mean when I say there's a difference. And I think what we all can do is acknowledge that. And so if you're trying to respond to something, understand when you need to relinquish your seat at the table and say, actually, I want to bring another voice into this, right? And don't just bring a token person. You have to have enough representation from the people who know it's urgent, right? That's how we move the needle. That's how we change what we're doing. I don't even know if I answered your question, but I tried. Okay.
Thank you so much. Very good talk you gave. My name is Larry Sloan, and I heard something on CNBC this morning. I cannot remember the gentleman who was talking about it, his name, but it was about Black entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. And it was about this incredible growth during and after the, well, we're not in the after phase yet of the pandemic, but during the pandemic, how many new Black businesses opened, including many sole proprietorships, mm-hmm. especially Black women sole proprietorships. Mm-hmm. And I know, having been involved with Kevin Fields for a while, he's nurturing that, but as are other people. And so I think there's an old saying, the trend is your friend. If that's the trend, mm-hmm. how can you keep that going? I know businesses are one of your goals, and that's certainly very important, and we learned that in our 2 days that we had 3 years ago talking to Black leaders. But do you have any thoughts on that?
That's a great question, absolutely. So we've created a Center for Entrepreneurship to respond to that need. Of course, you saw that our goal was for 500 stable and strong Black businesses, and what we consider in terms of how we label that is that those are employer businesses. So they're not sole proprietorship, but we know that's important because these, what people call gigs or side hustles, actually help to support and uplift the income of a household, right? And so if I can say, I know I need a little bit more this month or this week, I can turn up on selling whatever product I have, whether it's jewelry, cupcakes, whatever. And so we, with the Center for Entrepreneurship, provide that front door experience to be able to do an intake with clients to say, what is it that you're looking for? Whether you're trying to start a business or you're trying to stabilize, and then helping to cultivate that ecosystem with our partners. One of our really wonderful partners, AMPed, Russell Tech Business Incubator, everybody's not ready for that, right? Some of them are just like, I got this idea, I want to do, so we found a way to kind of streamline and automate the process by having an initial, do you have skin in the game, right? We need you to fill out this business model canvas, come to the orientation, and then we'll determine how we can best support you. So absolutely, it is definitely something we're leaning into, but the way we're trying to measure ourselves is how are we making an impact in those families' lives and economically.
Sure. Hey, it's right at 1 o'clock. If somebody needs to leave, please just do so quietly. We're going to have a couple more questions, and I'm sure Dr. Price can stay afterward too. So go ahead.
And I'll make it quick, Dr. Kish. I'm a big fan, you know that, and as a lifelong urban leaguer, love the work that you're doing. But I've known you even before the Urban League in your current capacity, and I know one of your passions is early education. So I would love for you, for this audience, I want to prompt you to give the case for why we must do better as a community. We have failed to invest in early education. I'm talking about birth to 5 and all the other social issues that we're dealing with, social economic disparities that we're all grappling with, start at that level. When we fail there, we fail elsewhere. Would you make the case for us to understand why that's so important?
Absolutely. I feel like you just did, but I stamp what you just said. And I'll also say that, if we're not cognizant of the real connection between early childhood, the K-12 experience, post-secondary, workforce development, economic development, it's all connected. And so we're dealing with a very real issue right now where we have this crisis even when we talk about the workforce. Like, if you don't have enough educated students ready to take jobs, we have a problem in Kentucky, right? So if we're not being deliberate about investing in our kids at a very early age, knowing that their minds are being shaped tremendously in the first 3 years, right? How can we expect to say that we are actually going to be this thriving community if we don't understand that that's a very real issue? Especially when we say single black moms, as I shared with you all earlier, are the ones that are really paying the price for not having quality childcare. We're having kids going not ready for kindergarten, still thinking that, knowing your ABCs and the colors, you're ready. The times have changed. That used to be the mark. It is no longer the mark. So quality childcare providers know that. They're teaching to the test. They know what the test is. But when you don't have that investment, right? And you have grandma and is great, right? Because somebody loves your kid and cares for them. But if they don't know how to prepare them every day for what's ahead of them and what's in front of them, we have a huge problem. And so we can't, once again, keep doing the same thing, calling out the same stuff, and expect different results. Thank you for uplifting that. Yes. And thank you for your work in the space. Yes.
Thank you for coming today. You sent some gut punches.
Oh, good.
My question is, on your first slides, it mentioned the black women make $25,000, and you didn't really touch on that. I know it's not one of the pillars right now, but what is one of the solutions to increase income with black women? And then the second question is, how do we change the paradigm shift if someone is only filling their mind and ears with the media and that false narrative? What is your suggestion for them to get a new paradigm shift?
Two really great questions. So first of all, one of our anchor programs is Kentuckiana Builds. That is a construction program that's been heavily male focused, but it's been great. I actually just came from our celebration. We celebrated the 500 mark. We graduated our 512th graduate today, which is wonderful. And believe it or not, out of the 15 graduates for this cohort, we had kind of a real split with 8 men and 7 women. I think I got it right. So it's interesting to see that there's more opportunity there. Women are seeing their space in that area. But we have to be real about, is that conducive to most black women who may be, with children, head of household? How do they juggle everything? You need a flexible option if you're talking about what could really work, right? If I have leave and I have to keep taking leave because I'm the only person who can respond to my kids' needs or the family members that I have to attend to, how likely am I going to be able to keep that job? It's going to be a problem, right? Can't tell you how many times my husband's a wonderful partner, right? And he's there so that if something happens, we can share that load. But if you don't have that, then what? So we're creating more workforce programs that attend to that specifically, to give that flexibility to working moms to really respond to that. And then the other question you asked about how can we step up and lean into the paradigm shift from the media. So I believe one of the great ways to do that is what I was sharing, that forced piece of connecting across lines, across divides, so that we expand from, I have a white friend, I have a black friend, to, I have so many friends, diverse friends, I have, you know what I mean? And not just, there are levels to friends, right? We all got circles, right? So it's the close circle and then you expand. How close are friends that are not of the same hue to you? That's the question. And so being more intentional about creating those opportunities is the way that I think we can all do that. Especially Adopt-a-School is, I think, going to be one of those ways for us to get connected with kids and families. Oh, and wait, sorry, one more thing, please don't clap yet. My big slide, I got hot, but that big slide with $1.1 billion, I need to lift that up here in this room because I want you all to know that projection is just for those 3 pillars that we talked about. But we absolutely believe we can do that collectively, and we believe that if people know what the ROI looks like for that kind of investment, then it's nothing, right? Okay, that's it. Thank you.
There's plenty of room at the seats at our tables for somebody like you, so I want to make that as an invitation to join Rotary. Also, to thank you today, Rotary's making a $500 contribution to our West Global Housing Initiative in your honor. So thank you. And now for your prize drawing. 487-999. Wow. And here's the door prize is the lunch at our first meeting at the Women's Club of Louisville. I think we want to have a sellout crowd, and you just got one. Well deserved. Thank you, everybody. Next week we'll hear from I'll cram Burton, I'm sure I just butchered that, from the Kentucky Center for African American Heritage, and Walt's Words of Wisdom this week. And I think y'all know that, I don't know, if you read your Sparks, my newsletter in Sparks was written by Chatbox GPT, with just like, and it took it 8 seconds to write it. It was crazy. There was one typo, and I took some stuff out, but I asked it to give me some pertinent African American heritage quotes and why they're important, and you read some of that, but here they are. If there is no struggle, there is no progress, by Frederick Douglass. The time is always right to do what is right, Martin Luther King Jr. The problem is not the lack of talent, the problem is the lack of access and opportunity, Ava DuVernay. And education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, Nelson Mandela. And the greatest of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members, Ms. King, Coretta Scott King, and when you know better, you do better, Maya Angelou. If you're a guest and want to know about Rotary, come down here with Craig. We are adjourned. Thank you for coming.
See you all.